Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.
Here you go. Here you go.
Disappointed. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day. It is Monday, September 23rd, 2024, and Jerry Jones is disappointed. I was lucky enough to watch the Cowboys play the Ravens last night, listen to Tom Brady. Impressive, Coca. Tom Brady definitely doing better. He says words on the air that I wonder whether the Fox executives are disappointed when he says things like hell or stupid, which are not terrible words, and we all say worse and hear worse. It just seems strange hearing that from a number one or any number analyst on the slate. People waking up this morning, looking at the score, didn't watch the game. They were at weddings. They were traveling. They were living their lives. What a great game. 28-25. The Ravens beat the Cowboys to avoid an 0-3 start. The Ravens had to win. No choice. You cannot win a Super Bowl from 0-3. It's never happened before. I guess there's always a first. Ravens are up 28-6 in the fourth quarter. It's done. Tom Brady's giving an analysis of what he'd like to see some fire. They showed Jerry Jones a precious few times. Dallas scored a bunch of touchdowns. They got an onside kick. Love the fact you have to tell the other team when you're doing it now. Makes it way better. No more concussions. Meanwhile, every NFL player, they're all getting hurt. Everyone's in the blue tent, but the kickoffs are going great. The greatest rule change ever, adding to the excitement of the game. So the Ravens play prevent defense. Cowboys score a couple times. It gets dicey. Lamar Jackson needs a first down, gets it. Clock runs down. It's over. And there are no moral victories in a football season. There are no moral defeats in a football season. It is very binary because there's so few games. So the Cowboys losing their second straight at home, it's a big deal to start 1-2. It's a big deal the way their defense has looked while they were able to get stops in the fourth quarter. At the end of the day, the Cowboys clearly, if you're watching that game, are not as good as the Ravens. Hard stop. So I was waiting for Jerry Jones's comments after the game so I could figure out whether the GM was upset and worried about his job, whether the owner was going to fire the coach, what McCarthy was going to say. And the best Jerry Jones could come up with, watching his team, recognizing that their success at home at AT&T has been stupendous during the regular season. Their playoff performance has been less than mediocre. So maybe in their mind, they're talking during the game and saying it's going to be the opposite. We're going to stink at home, but we're going to really kick some arse during the playoffs. So Jerry Jones, when asked, just said, I'm very disappointed that we got beat today. That sounds like a GM, not an owner, because I promise you that's not how owners react to a home loss like that. He said, very disappointed. That's two disappointed. Very disappointed. And you can't in any way sugarcoat the fact that we got beat, and there were parts of the way we got beat that were really areas we've got to get a lot better in. And then my favorite part, got a lot of work to do, but we've got time. And then acknowledge they play Thursday against the Giants, where, of course, they have no time to do anything. But then he ended with, that was just disappointing. Why is it that owners would react that way or GMs would react that way? So I was going back and thinking about losses and thinking about when I'm disappointed. What are the scenarios under which you would be disappointed after a loss? And here it is. It's the scenario where you didn't get outplayed. The disappointment would be something random happened where you can't say, hey, anything other than, my God, I have nothing bad to say. It's just life. It's the luck of the draw, the bounce of the ball. It's the way things go. Or, of course, I'm disappointed. I'm not angry. When a parent says that to you, doesn't that hurt so much? I'm very disappointed in you, David. Or when your significant other says that, or your professor or teacher. Do you think the clubhouse or Mike McCarthy, when Jerry Jones walked in, said, "Oh, boys, men, I'm really disappointed in you"? No. When you see that you've been outplayed and the team you've put together likely has no chance to win the Lombardi Trophy and may not even be a playoff team when you see the way their defense is playing, that's not disappointing. That's despondency. So for me, I would have expected him to come in and say, I am despondent that the team I put together is this bad. But he didn't. I was despondent watching the game, and I'm not even a Bills fan. Let me explain. When the Bills lost the Super Bowl before 42% of you were born, when they lost to the Giants, Scott Norwood went wide right. It's a whole Megillah. He's famous for it. He's still living it down when the Giants were able to win the Super Bowl. Giants fans may or may not remember that. And the field goal was makeable. I think it was 47 yards, Coca. But there was a chance he was going to miss it. Not automatic, but Norwood was good. When someone attempts a 50-yarder, it's just outrageous. It's not going to happen. And if it does happen, it's a spring miracle and you can be thrilled. If you lose to a 52-yard field goal, you would say, man, that's just good for him. Tip my cap. That was disappointing. During that Cowboy game, Brandon Aubrey, their kicker, hit a 65-yard field goal. That's the second longest in NFL history behind Justin Tucker's 66, who, of course, was on the other side and missed a gimme chip shot from like 46 yards during the game. I wanted to talk about these field goals because I've been feeling it all season, really watching, and it started last year because it used to be when you had the ball on a touchback for a kickoff. Now, hear me out on this. Stay with me. You'd get it on the 20. Now, that may be a long time ago, but just imagine you got it on the 20. The 2-minute drill is 1st and 10 on the 20. And realistically, it's 17 yards from where you line up for the field goal to kick the field goal, which means if you're on your other 30, it's a 47-yard field goal. That's the general math. And so the view was that you had to go 50 yards in a 2-minute drill from the 20 all the way to the opposing team's 30, and that would give you an opportunity to kick a tying field goal, a game-winning field goal, whatever the case may be, if you only needed a field goal. Well, now field goal range is all of a sudden any place past the logo. If you are in your opponent's territory, there is an argument to be made that you're in field goal range, and you'll certainly try it at the end of a game. But a realistic field goal is now the 38, a 55-yard field goal. People don't even talk about it anymore. It's not even worth mentioning, which is bizarre. And on the touchback, you're getting the ball at the 30. So you have to go 32 yards. That's not a 2-minute drill. That can be like a 25-second drill. The excitement of the end of game and the stats that we put in. How is my quarterback in the 2-minute offense? Is he in control? How is their clock management? It's like the minute the kickoff happens, the other team's in field goal range, which means that there's a premium on holding the ball and clock management and kicking a field goal or scoring if you're the other team or doing whatever you have to do in order to keep the clock rolling, to not give the ball back to the team that's losing because they barely have to go anywhere on the field. The NFL for sure is noticing this, and they have got to change something about field goals because the ability of these kickers has gotten so good that it's changed the excitement of the end of the games. Whether it is making the goalposts closer together, whether it is moving the goalposts back, whether it's requiring that the snap goes 3 yards further where you set up, the NFL is going to look at this, and I have an idea. I want to do it by points. I want to give more points the closer you are to your opposing team's end zone. If you don't score on when it's 3rd down and goal from the 3, if you score, you get 6 points. If you kick a field goal, you get 4 points. The further back you are, now it's counterintuitive, because what people would say is, why don't we give more points like an NBA 3-pointer? And the reason why I don't want to do that is I want action. I want people going toward the end zone. I want the possibility of a score. I want a long drive. I don't want 4 handoffs. Just get me to the 40 and we'll kick a 57-yarder because we'll nail it and then we'll be good. I want to screw around with the different points the way the NBA does with the 3-point line. Think about it. There are 3 different points in the NBA. You've got the free throw, the 2-point shot, and the 3-point shot. And the fact that you can get a safety in the NFL we're not counting that. That's a defensive score. So it's really only 3, 6, and then the extra point 1. And they did that where you could do the 2-point conversion, the extra point, different place on the field. So there's precedence for different placing of the ball on the field for different point values. We can't make it so the legs of the kickers start opposite evolving. It's just going to get stronger over time. The players are going to get better at kicking. The NFL is going to look at that. The Rules Committee is going to look at that. Hi, I'm David Tepper. I told you that Andy Dalton was the right choice. Not that I was involved. But if I were to be involved, I would have had Andy Dalton starting. And I want to congratulate my coach for giving up on Bryce Young. But just so you know, it's not going to last all season. This is temporary. If Andy Dalton, who I think is the only quarterback this season to throw for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, the Carolina Panthers, the laughingstock Panthers, beat the laughingstock Raiders 36-22. Too funny to me. When you're evaluating players and evaluating how your team is, we have to be very careful. It's the equivalent of a second string catcher, the backup catcher, going 4 for 5, hitting a home run and saying, oh my God, let's keep playing him more. Or at your number 7 starter having a great game and say, no, we're going to move him into the rotation. You got to be very careful when backups have games like that. Bryce Young has to be their quarterback unless they're going to take advantage of the trade inquiries, which, by the way, side note, Coca, all the teams, all the rumors about trade inquiries for Bryce Young, the quarterback, erstwhile quarterback for the Panthers, those are all sniper trades. That's when you call up the Panthers and say, hey, if you're trying to get rid of him, we'll give you 6 bags of balls, and that's it. Those aren't real trade inquiries. So Andy Dalton coming in and doing what he did, do not be fooled. It's not sustainable. Speaking of not sustainable, I'm wondering about the 3-0 starts. This is, 1-0, you don't talk much. 2-0, you don't talk much. 3-0 is when in football you start saying it because it's almost a month of the season. Remember my baseball analogy. We always assume, even though the math is now off with 17 games, every NFL game equals 10 MLB games. Rough math. So when you're 3-0, you're 30-0. That's not too shabby. You start saying to yourself, I wonder if Geno Smith is saying to himself, wow, this is good. This is good. Sam Darnold is the best quarterback in football after 3 games. Justin Fields is undefeated in Pittsburgh. And thank God Russell Wilson's calf still hurts, which is funny. Because if the Steelers were 0-3, my guess is that Russell Wilson's calf would be just fine, but they don't want to embarrass him by having him as the backup quarterback. You cannot sit Justin Fields at this juncture. You're 3-0 as the Steelers. So what you do is you elongate Russell Wilson and hope that Sierra doesn't tweet anything, but you sort of just say, yeah, he's still hurt. So I'm looking at these 3-0 teams, and I would venture to say that anyone who had a parlay of Seattle, Pittsburgh, Minnesota being 3-0, you'd be 9-0 because there's been 3 weeks, 3 teams times 3. Yep, on the new iPhone, if you just do 3 plus 3 in your notes, it'll give you the math. This is really the coolest thing ever. We're making it. Speaking of which, we don't have time for this on a Monday, but I don't find that to be an advance. Because is it true that if you have a calculator, then you just don't need to know the multiplication tables? I used to have to study file cards. I want people to know what 8 times 7 is. I don't want people to pull out their phone to figure out what the tip is at a restaurant. Sorry, I'm back. So if you went 9-0 with Seattle, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, you'd win a lot of money in a parlay. And all I was thinking about, again, would be commissioners of other sports thinking about competitive balance and parity, and it's what they all want. Everyone wants hope. Everyone wants to believe that they can turn it around. Owners are funny when it comes to that because that sort of parity can be embarrassing. When you have sustained losing, it's embarrassing when teams turn it around quickly or when teams are able to outperform and you're not one of the outperformers. If you think owners do not pay attention or team presidents, you'd be very incorrect. Every owner is scoreboard watching. They're all studying. They study the standings, trying to figure out how to say to their GM, how can we not be blank, blank, or blank team? I wonder how many teams are saying, how come we didn't trade for Justin Fields? "18 seasons in baseball, maybe 50 times, 100 times, more. 18 times, that'd be, let's round it up to 20 seasons, 5 times a year. Oh, way more than 100. Way more than 100 times did I have a player break curfew, stay out all night, party their head off, and then come to a game. Some were good, some were bad. Some games good, some games bad. No correlation, even though I pretended there was. This weekend in baseball, CJ Abrams, we're going to talk for a minute, if you don't mind, about the Washington Nationals, even though there's nothing to talk about. There's a week left in the season, under a week. The Nationals are finished on Sunday, and they made news this weekend. There's no more secrets, Marty. When you go to a casino, you're going to get seen. The number of players who go to casinos in opposing cities, many. It used to be not every city had a casino. There were a few. Do you know how many players go to Potawatomi in Milwaukee? Or when you're in St. Louis, would go to the riverboats, and now it's so easy downtown St. Louis. CJ Abrams, the star, really, he is a star for the Nationals. We woke up on Sunday morning to the news, or Saturday morning. I think it was Sunday morning or Saturday morning, one of the mornings. They're all mixing together. That CJ Abrams had been optioned all the way to single A. And there was a rumor that he had been out all night gambling and had broken curfew and showed up at the team hotel at 8 a.m. for a 1 p.m. game in Chicago. And I laughed because Miguel Cabrera would show up to the ballpark in last night's clothes, and we had to teach him, listen, Miggy, do me a favor when you're out all night, just change your clothes so I don't have to see you walking into the clubhouse wearing the clothes you wore to the game yesterday. Just pretend. The number of players who break curfew, we would have team rules, and the players have to sign the team rules during spring training. And then when a player gets called up during the season, they get a list of the team rules. Always had a curfew on the road, and I don't know why. I never had a curfew. Totally inconsistent to make the players have a curfew. My view is that we've got the ultimate parent hammer. If you're bad at your job, then guess what? We can take your job away. But if you need an hour's sleep or you need 10 hours sleep, you're an adult. You figure it out. We would tell some rookies, I used to tell Hanley, Coca, that we were going to do bed checks. Hanley would always either be in bed, but not sleeping, or not be around. I don't think he took the bed check threat very seriously, actually. I only did it one time. Hanley, it's David. How you doing? Open up. Hanley! He was there. Love you, Hanley. So, CJ Abrams, when he got optioned out, let me clarify a couple things for you. Number one, he was not sent to single A as a punishment. There's no other place to go. Number two, single A is where their spring training facility is. Number three, I'll bet you $1 he doesn't report there because he doesn't need to. There's nothing going on. Number four, the only thing he lost was about $30,000, which is the difference between getting major league pay and getting no pay. He's a minimum player, so he's missing a week of the season. The rough math was told to me is about 30 grand. Sort of easy to figure out what it could be. But just assume that is the penalty. He is arbitration eligible next season. He doesn't lose his arbitration eligibility. There was no service time manipulation. The Nationals at first denied the report and just said, hey, it's not performance related. Those are 4 words that we did not want our GM or manager to say when we sent out a player, because performance related is the way you can send out a player and not be subject to a grievance. The problem is CJ Abrams had great performance. Sort of. You could argue it was performance related. You could argue this late in the season, hey, we wanted him to work on stuff. But the problem is you lose that grievance. The reason you lose that grievance is there's a week to go in the season. In July, in August, that is a slam dunk. Anytime up to September 23rd, it's a slam dunk. Hey, we want him to work on his fastball. We want him to work on this position. And it's all horse hockey. We're doing it to service time manipulate, or we're doing it to save money. We're doing it for a particular reason. But we would always say what the player has to work on. And if you pay attention, you'll see that all the time in baseball. No one gets optioned September 23rd for performance. You don't. So they had to go with the truth eventually. They said, hey, it's an internal non-on-field matter. If I'm the players' union, I am very likely going to grieve this situation. I don't know the entire facts of the case, because it could be that CJ Abrams is a serial curfew team rule breaker, terrible in the clubhouse. They can't stand him. But it seems unlikely because Dave Martinez his quotes were, hey, I love this kid, man. It's all about the kid. This is a teaching opportunity. News alert. The players do not get taught anything with the discipline that we try to give them. 18 years of trying to discipline players. Number of lessons learned, zilch. I think CJ Abrams is saying, man, I'll never go to a casino again. I'll never break curfew again. I'll never pull an all-nighter again. I'm all about the team. Give me a break. Player curfew. It's a good one. David Bell got canned yesterday, manager of the Reds. Before you wonder, this is the time. Anytime between now and the end of the season, you can can your manager, put an interim in. The reason why you'd get rid of David Bell is A, the Reds underperformed. B, it's time to move on from him for sure. It's not that you're getting such a big head start on interviewing candidates because the Reds knew they were going to fire David Bell prior to yesterday. The reason why this firing takes place is the last week of the season, you start to meet with your coaches and you start to offer them new deals, and you are deciding what you're going to do with your on-field staff, or you're implementing the decisions you've already made. And if you're a mensch, which I'm not sure people run around calling the Castellinis a mensch, but you could. If you're a mensch, you try to get to your coaches who you're not renewing as early as possible, because other teams, this is the time they're hiring. They're hiring both down at the minor league level. They're looking around to hire at the major league level. They know what changes are going to happen in their coaching staff. And you want to do for your coaches the right, nice thing. You want them to have an opportunity to interview and get jobs elsewhere. So I would always be on the road or at home, wherever the team was the last week, of course, because those are the meetings that are happening. And if you know you're getting rid of your manager, it's perfectly fine to do it now. And sometimes we would give our manager the opportunity. Hey, do you want to manage the rest of the season, or do you just want to bail right now? Totally up to you, but we're letting you go. We can announce it Monday after the season. We can announce it today, whatever you like. David Bell got an extension just over a year ago that would have gotten him through the 26th season. So the Reds will be paying him in 25 and 26 not to manage. I like the extensions of 2+1, 1+1. However, that's ex post facto. When I was running a team, I believe that out of all of the seasons, I believe we were paying more than one manager, maybe 14 of the 18 seasons. I was a proponent of giving stability to the clubhouse, not having your manager on a lame duck year, the anti-Yankee plan. I'm not surprised that David Bell got fired. David Bell's been there for 5 or 6 years. The Reds believe that this is their time to win. And remember that what Brandon Hyde has been able to do in Baltimore is the exception, not the rule. The rule is the David Bell situation, where you have a manager for a rebuild, and then you've got another manager to take it home. Brandon Hyde's been able to be a part of both. And so I was not surprised that Bell got fired, not surprised at the timing, not surprised at any of it, other than Nick Kral's quote, who's the GM of the team. David provided the kind of steadiness that we needed in our clubhouse over the last few seasons. We felt a change was needed to move the major league team forward. We have not achieved the success we expected. How do you feel about that quote? Well, as a connoisseur of firing people, you didn't need the first sentence. Just do it. Go right into the second sentence. Go right to, we felt a change was needed to move the major league team forward. Don't start. It's so funny what wimps do. They don't like firing people. They don't want to look bad. They want to look compassionate. We wish the best to him and his whole family. We'll miss David and his family. All of that poppycock, which is all it is. The first sentence is just another part of that. David provided the kind of steadiness that we needed. Well, we would hope he did something because you kept him for all those years. You just don't need to say it. Standing ovation. I'm sitting. It's too hard to stand up right now. The Chicago White Sox social media team is awesome. All these teams have to tweet after they win or lose. They tweet a box score. They tweet a picture. They tweet something. The White Sox social media team is off the rails. The whole organization is in the crapper from top to top. It's just terrible out there. You're witnessing history if you're a White Sox fan. If you're a baseball fan, this is bigger history than Ohtani's 50-50. Don't roll your eyes. 50-50's never been done. This is incredible. It's very cool that he's got 53 home runs and 50 stolen bases. I get 52 stolen bases, whatever it is. Losing 120 games is way harder than going 50-50. It's not even close. It's as hard to lose 120 as it is to win 120. So I'm giving you a standing ovation, White Sox. You've done it. They have 6 games left. They will lose one of the games, I guarantee it, if not more. They will be known as the worst team in the history of baseball. So the articles are flowing. What will they do with Grady Sizemore? Is this a Jerry Reinsdorf problem? Is Chris Getz good? Where's Kenny Williams? Are the players bad? Here is my advice to all White Sox fans. The way you would treat a 120 win season is that you would say, amazing. I hope we win the World Series, but this is not sustainable. Make sure if you're a White Sox fan, you're doing the same thing. There is no way the White Sox lose 120 plus games next year. It is not going to happen. Their over-under will not be anywhere near that, no matter how stinky they are. And believe me, they will be stinky. But this season is such an anomaly that we should just look at it with awe, with respect, almost with love for giving us this season to remember. My God, are they bad? I wanted to talk about Oakland too, but we'll have time all this week. It's the last few games in Oakland. We'll get to that. Wanted to talk about Ohtani. We'll get to that at some point. But in the meantime, I want to take a break because I want to talk about playoffs, and I want to give love, so much love, to AJ Hinch because he doesn't get enough. We'll review a movie and talk about the Tigers when we come back. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. It's a Monday. Thank you for your time, for all the engagement throughout the weekend, throughout all of the shows that we do. Today is show 1131. Please continue to tell your friends. We love seeing the growth. Download, please. Subscribe on YouTube. Get into the chat at 8 o'clock Eastern or watch on DraftKings Network at 10 o'clock Eastern. Do whatever it is you do because we are thankful. DavidSampsonPodcast.com goes through every movie that we've reviewed on this show, every pick of the day, every wait to see. Don't forget the contest we have. If you can guess the wait to see word, you'll get free merch. Let's talk about a movie I watched because it hit a nerve. There's a movie called Didi, D-I-D-I. Didi is the name of a character. He is a Asian American character growing up in a time in the 70s. He was very relatable to me, which would sound strange because you'd say, David, don't do any appropriation. You're white. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when you watch Didi, which I'm going to strongly suggest you watch, as one of the great coming-of-age movies along the lines of Stand By Me, along the lines of all of the movies that I can't think of right now because I didn't make a list before the show of top 5 coming-of-age movies. Capturing the relationships between the brother and the sister. The Girl Next Door would be in my top 5 coming-of-age movie, I would say. I don't want to blow anything. If you believe in my reviews, if I'm one of the people whose reviews you agree with in general, then watch Didi. You will appreciate it, I promise. I want to get right to baseball right now. Thank you, Coca. That was a faster review than you would have expected, but we have so much left to cover, and we only have 16 minutes. Let's talk about the MLB playoffs. It's time. The regular season ends on Sunday. The wild card races are wild. The division races are non-existent, except you could argue Dodgers, Padres, but it's a tough argument. Though the Padres are 3 back, and in theory, they could sweep, I guess, because the Dodgers really don't have pitching. There is a great division race going on in the West. between the Padres and the Dodgers. But the true excitement is in the wild card. And I want to do a do-over from Le Batard last week, where I was asked what my story of the year is. And Jeremy had gone with Tigers. And I went with Brewers because, A, it's more fun when people have different stories about what the story of the year is, as opposed to every analyst. It's like when you're picking games, it's sort of boring when everybody picks the same team or has the same takeaways or winners or losers. But thinking back, I probably should have gone with Tigers, even though the Brewers are Milwaukee and I love them and they are such a story. But if the Tigers don't make the playoffs, then sticking with the Brewers was brilliant. If the Tigers do make the playoffs, and right now, not only are they in playoff position, they're tied for the second wild card with Kansas City, who can't win a game. Minnesota can't win a game, which is how you make up 10 games. Houston has made up 10 games, and they're going to win their division. They were 10 games back, but much earlier. The Tigers were just 10 games back. And now, what was it, a month ago, Coca? It's insanity. When A.J. Hinch was hired there, it was his entree back into baseball after being suspended for a year by the commissioner for the Astros sign-stealing scandal and being fired. That's when the Astros brought in Dusty Baker to settle down the situation. A.J. Hinch served his suspension along with Alex Cora, and they both became managers. The only one who didn't get his job back was Carlos Beltran, come to think of it. Cora went back to the Red Sox, and Hinch got a new job, didn't get his job back, but became a manager, so that's really getting his job back, of the Tigers. We spent time talking about the Tigers over the years because of the Miguel Cabrera contract. We've spent time about the Cy Young race this year with Skubal and whether or not he should win it or Class A. We have spent some time talking about the Tigers bullpen. No shutdown bullpen name, but a shutdown bullpen, meaning it's a bunch of people you've never heard of. They've had misses in the draft. I could argue pretty persuasively that Torkelson is not what they thought, but okay. Misses in free agency. Hello, Javier Baez. They were sellers at the deadline. Traded Jack Flaherty, who very likely will be a game one starter for the Dodgers in the playoffs. Traded away some bullpen arms, and they can't lose. It's like a dream come true for Scott Harris, the GM of that team, for the president, for the owner, Christopher Ilitch, who is Mike Ilitch's son. When you save money and give up on a season and your clubhouse says, screw you, we're going to win anyway, it's brilliant. The thing is, when you've got a team like the Tigers who are doing what they're doing, it means by definition you've got a team like the Royals and the Twins. And I ask you this question. If you are Rocco Baldelli and you are the manager of the Twins, who have done nothing but lose, they're 7-13 in their last 20. They just, if you look at their record in the past month or two, it's just they have blown it. Do you evaluate your front office based on the end of the season? Or are you doing the evaluation now and saying Baldelli is finished? Let me give you the answer. The answer is that while I've always been a consequentialist, baseball people are way more so than you'd think. No matter how you get to the finish line, if the Twins end up making the playoffs, it will be irrelevant, all of the losing they've done and the stress they have being actually a game out with 6 to play. If they miss the playoffs, it will require a change because it will be an epic collapse, and epic collapses lead to change because there's no other way to tell the public or to tell the media or the fans or your sponsors. You can't say, hey, that's baseball. They don't want to hear it. You have to say that is unacceptable. We are disappointed. You wouldn't say that. We could do a wait to see the postseason press conference of the Twins or the Royals. If one of those two do not make the playoffs, I guarantee it. As a matter of fact, Coca, can we make it a wait to see? I don't know how we can do it. So we'll talk about it after the show. But a wait to see that would say that in a postseason press conference of the team that loses, Royals or Twins, it will not be disappointment. It will be anger. It will be unacceptable. Nothing personal pick of the day. Strange weekend. Told you to take Zach Gallen and the Diamondbacks over the Brewers, and it won. The Twins and Pablo Lopez got their absolute keisters kicked by the Red Sox. Lopez did not pitch well, except it's a push because the bet was void because it got postponed from Saturday to Sunday. And then yesterday, we lost our NFL game. The Saints were plus 100 over the Eagles to cover at -3. Not only did they not cover, that used to be a stat that people gave on, is that still a stat that the number of teams that cover but lose is smaller than just trying to pick a winner? There was some stat I was given that if you just pick a winner, whether it's the underdog or the favorite, just only do money lines, that you're going to win in terms of statistically the same as trying to do points. So I thought the Saints would win. I wasn't stressed about the -3. Obviously, that only gets screwed up if they win by 1 or 2 points. But last night or yesterday, it happened. The Eagles just won the game. So we are 127 and 131. We got two things going on today, baseball and football. I want to start with baseball and end with football. In baseball, we're taking the Diamondbacks again. Eduardo Rodriguez, a huge disappointment, hugely overpaid. A guy I wouldn't want on my team because he wouldn't go to the Dodgers last trade deadline. There is no reason in the world to take the Diamondbacks other than the fact the Giants are done and the Diamondbacks definitely need a victory. So we're taking Rodriguez and the Diamondbacks over the Giants. I want to talk about the NFL for a minute tonight. I am not a fan of what's happening tonight. There is a Monday Night Football doubleheader, but it's not a doubleheader. So I cannot deal with it being, advertised as such. You can't have games that have starting times 35 minutes apart and call it a doubleheader. It's 2 Monday Night Football games. It's like I only want to use red zone at 1 o'clock, slightly at 4 o'clock. Going back and forth with the NFL package, it drives me up a wall. I don't want to do it Monday night. I feel like I get a break Thursday. I get a break Sunday night. I want the break Monday night. But if you're ESPN, you get to put a game on ESPN. You get to put a game on ABC. It's way better than simulcasting because, in theory, no, that's not how it's going to work. Do you think that there'll be 25 million people that'll watch just ESPN and 25 million that'll just watch ABC for a total of 50 million? Are you getting double your eyeballs? No. The Bengals and Commanders are playing a game, fine. Bills and Jaguars, fine. Which one are you going to watch? So my pick of the day is based on which one I'm going to watch. I'm going to watch the Bills and Jaguars for 2 reasons. One, Josh Allen. Can he go for the first time to start a season 3 games without throwing an interception? If he does, look out, NFL. 2, Trevor Lawrence. How much trouble is the Trevor Bank? The Trevor Bank, his personal bank, is fine. The Trevor Bank, the name of where the Jaguars play, I think only for week 1. Trevor Lawrence, they have tripled down, quadrupled down on him as their franchise quarterback in Jacksonville, given the contract they gave him. And I keep watching and thinking to myself, he's fine. He's fine. That's all he is. The Bills are giving 5.5 points to the Jaguars. We're taking the Bills. We're giving the points. Josh Allen is not fine. Josh Allen is superior. When you have a superior quarterback against a fine quarterback, the superior quarterback is going to win the day. I'm not willing to call Trevor Lawrence a bust quite yet, but soon? Those are the nothing personal picks of the day. The following is a piece of advice for all of you. Thank you. We have 5 minutes. Last story. Stay with me. I can't understand the 6% of people who leave after 47 minutes. You've given me 47 minutes. Does it mean the last 3 are just bad? Do I need a better story? Well, how about this one? The home run ball for Ohtani. Andy Slater, who is a newsbreaker in Miami, he's got the greatest connections of all time to the police force. So he gets information before anybody on DUIs, on deaths, on anything that happens, on speeding violations. He did the Tyreek Hill video. He had it first. He found out that the Dodgers offered $300,000 to the Miami Marlins fan who got Ohtani's 50th home run ball. When Ken Griffey hit his 600th home run ball, I tried to get it back. Miami's had a bunch of cool stuff happen at Pro Player Marlins Park, by the way. Anyway, I digress. What they haven't had is a World Series at Marlins Park. Lone Depot, they've only had it at Pro Player twice. Half a flex there. Let me give you the process of how a $300,000 offer would be made to a fan right on the spot and how absolutely embarrassing it is for the Dodgers to have done that. I'm all in for offering jerseys, meet and greets, tickets, everything that I told you about on Friday. To offer $300,000, you have to. That's not what a GM is authorized to do. The manager, the traveling secretary, the team president. There is no one authorized for a $300,000 expenditure for a ball except the owner. So I'm picturing Ohtani hitting his 50th. Do you think they prepped for that and said, listen, wherever he hits it, let's offer $300,000 if we don't get the ball? If it had gone into the Marlins bullpen, I would have given the ball back to the Dodgers for nothing. And now I'm looking back and thinking, what a mistake. Should have, anytime I got anything from another team, from a headline or a highlight that takes place, charge them. Of course, that only refers to several teams who I would do that to. The Dodgers are definitely one of them. Yes, the Mets are one too. Not under Fred, but under Steve. You got to get permission to offer that. So the owner gives permission. They've planned it. And somehow the fan was smart enough not to accept it because that is a transaction. That is a taxable transaction. And all I kept thinking about is how the Dodgers would calculate that expenditure. Let's pretend the Dodgers offered $300,000 to this guy. The guy takes it. There are financial statements that are audited that every team has. And those financial statements go to the union. They go to MLB. They go to your team auditor. Revenue sharing, which the Dodgers are a revenue sharing payor. When you raise $1 of revenue, you actually have to give away 33 cents of it in revenue sharing. So for every dollar you raise, you're only getting 66 cents. If your expenses go up by $1, you're only paying 66 cents of those because you save money in revenue sharing. So by offering $300,000 and then categorizing it as an expense of the team, the reality is it's not really $300,000. It's really only $200,000. And what I was thinking about is how definite it is that I, as a low revenue team, would be looking into the revenue sharing pot and making sure that the Dodgers didn't get to characterize that as an expense. Because that would bother me to no end, that they could just throw around 300 grand to a fan for a ball. Here's Shohei, you get it. Unless it was for their Hall of Fame, which I don't think it was. They went to the guy, and the guy said, I think I better be quiet and go see my accountant, as smartly he should, put it up for auction. In any case, when you are the Dodgers and you get to make those decisions, do you think that they went right up to the guy and just said, hey, it's just business. This is nothing personal.